This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Good morning, Sharjah and the United Arab Emirates. We're back again, a brand new week, and the best thing about this week is that it is a shorter week, which is going to be a true delight so far. And with us here in the studios is Ahmed Dawood and Rania Saadi. Ahmed Dawood, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Abdul Karim. And yes, a lot of people looking forward to that break. It's going to be incredible. And we have a lot of stories to discuss today. In fact, we've been discussing, throughout the weeks, the U.S.-China clash. It's a major one. The United States recently forcing the Houston consulate of China to close. But China retaliated as well. In fact, in Chengdu, the consulate was ordered to be closed for the United States. And amid that, we've had a number of big developments here in this conflict, including reports of people emerging as Chinese spies in the United States as well. So we're going to be discussing the nitty-gritty of that, how the conflict is shaping up, and what to expect moving forward.
Yep, and a very good morning to Rania here in the studios as well. Lots of developments when it comes to the world of vaccines and what's happening here in Sharjah.
Absolutely. Good morning to you guys and good morning to all the listeners of this show. Abu Dhabi's health authority, Saha, actually initiated phase 3 clinical trials for an inactivated coronavirus vaccines, and the trials are being conducted by Sinopharm's China National Biotech Group in alliance with the Abu Dhabi government and artificial intelligence company G42 Healthcare. The candidate vaccine is believed to be the world's first inactivated vaccine to enter a phase 3 trial. So we will talk more thoroughly about this ongoing development. And later on, we will also going to discuss SCCI's underlining the importance of developing joint action plans and also stepping up the efforts to strengthen economic and investment cooperation between the UAE as a whole and in particular Sharjah. So we'll talk more closely about those two as well.
Yep, lots to look forward to on the program this morning. We'll also be discussing the big storm, the stormy season hitting the American territories, and give you some updates about that as we help you wake up this morning and be your partners on your journey to work. So stay tuned to Pulse 95. Lots of music to come on the show to keep you entertained and re-energized throughout the show. We'll be returning right after that interval.
Pulse 95.
The Morning Majlis, talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
We're talking about further deteriorating relations between the United States and China, and the Trump administration has been ramping up efforts as of late to root out Chinese spies, researchers, and others engaged in what the Trump administration accuses them of a full-scale effort to steal intellectual property and other secrets. And such accusations were cited as a reason for closing the Chinese consulate in Houston recently. And in retaliation, China ordered the closure of the U.S. consulate in Chengdu, a city in southwestern China. And here we have another development. A Singaporean man pleading guilty in the United States to working as an agent of China and stealing secrets.
Yes, and his name is Jun Wei Yu. He pleaded guilty on Friday to using his political consultancy in the United States as a front to collect information for Chinese intelligence, and that is according to the U.S. Justice Department. Now, he said from 2015 to 2019, he worked for Chinese intelligence, quote, to spot and assess Americans with access to valuable non-public information, including U.S. military and government employees with high-level security clearances. Now, this plea comes as China ordered the closure of the U.S. consulate in the southwestern city of Chengdu on Friday. But yeah, this move is definitely an escalation of a tit-for-tat exchange between the two countries after the U.S. ordered China to close its consulate in Houston.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that the officials said the activity in Texas went well over acceptable lines, and they wanted to send a strong message that it would not be tolerated. The decision to take more decisive action to counter China and disrupt its operations coincides, in fact, with a speech earlier this month by the FBI director who said the Chinese threat to U.S. interests had massively accelerated in the past decade, noting that he opened a new China-related counter-investigation every 10 hours.
Yeah, and
Whoa.
that's big.
Yeah, so it is pretty intense. So it's lots has been happening, isn't it, at the moment?
A lot has been happening indeed. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said this decision or the decisions to close the consulate in Houston was taken because China was stealing intellectual property. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin responded saying the move was based on a hodgepodge of anti-Chinese lies. But tensions have certainly been rising between the two countries over several key issues. And before we delve further into that, we look further into this guilty plea of the Singaporean man. He admitted to scouting for Americans with high-level security clearance. He presumably found them on LinkedIn. He would offer them around $1,000 to $2,000 to write reports. He would tell them it would go for a private company, not the Chinese government. And typically those individuals he would contact have financial troubles. So they would write these reports with sensitive information. He would send them to the Chinese government, and that's presumably, or according to the accusation, and what in his admission is what had occurred. But yes, Beijing and the United States have been clashing fiercely. Among the factors in play here are the exchanges on COVID-19. So U.S. officials, including Donald Trump, blaming China for the global spread of COVID-19. Donald Trump even making the unsubstantiated claim that the virus originated from a Chinese laboratory in Wuhan. The United States and China have also been locked in a tariff war since 2018, and the United States had long accused the country of unfair trading practices and intellectual property theft as well, while Beijing officials say that the United States is trying to curb its rise and ascent as a global economic power.
Well, for those who might be wondering, and there's people such as myself also sometimes fear that there is going to be a pretty big escalation between the two countries. So far, it's been a war of words. So far, it seems that it might be limited to moving these chess pieces to saying, okay, I'm going to make this move. I don't see what you're going to do. And then they'll say, I'll scratch your back. And then they'll say, I'll scratch your back more. So that's what the situation is at the moment. But looking at it in a larger picture, way back in 2016 when Trump started his election campaign, he had a very strong anti-China sentiment saying, China's ripped America off. That sentiment's back again. And the other aspect is that now with this situation in the consulate in the Singaporean man court to find more information, it basically showed that the Chinese authorities might have a slight upper hand in terms of espionage practices. And Mike Pompeo, within his administration, he's a very, very hardliner. Anyway, Secretary of State, pretty high position, who says that he's always been pressing for tougher action against Beijing, and also advising on this, and that this is the situation. Even though the President Donald Trump wanted to pursue and develop his friendship with Xi Jinping, but there's people around him that advise saying, well, there's a bit of a tough cookie over here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is certainly driven by the hawkish advisors of President Donald Trump, and this antagonism will certainly be a legacy of Donald Trump's presidency, regardless of the results in the polls. We've seen the relationship between the United States and China dismantle in terms of politically, economically, socially, and it feels as if we're at a point of no return, that regardless of the outcome of the elections, that the damage would have been done. We're talking sanctions on senior Chinese officials. We're talking about revoking the special status of Hong Kong. We're talking about a strong response on China's vast maritime claims in the South Sea, and a travel ban on Chinese students at the graduate level. Both countries taking strong stances against one another. An all-encompassing rivalry that may not be reversed by the presidential election, for sure.
Well, bit of a standoff, bit of a stalemate. Only time will tell in terms of where we're going to go with this. We shall keep you posted and even motivated throughout this morning. We are going to be talking about IMF's expectations when it comes to the net income. We're going to be talking about a number of big stories shaping the headlines, and a big development that is now out there. We might ponder over that. Is North Korea, country with no coronavirus infections, has finally said, oh my God, we've found our first infection. What's going on? We will find that out up next on the Morning Majlis.
Pulse 95.
The Morning Majlis, talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
Yes, this is Pulse 95. Welcome back on to the show. And we're talking about North Korea because authorities there have imposed a lockdown on the border city of Kaesong after discovering what they called the country's first suspected case of the novel coronavirus.
Yes, indeed, Rania. And this happened after they found an official, according to state news, we should add that, the person came from South Korea and was a former defector who had left North Korea earlier. Now, Kim Jong-un, leader of North Korea, attended an emergency meeting and took preemptive measures of isolating the city in which the man was present, Kaesong City. The city is at the border between South and North, and the person presumably, according to state sources, illegally returned to North Korea on July 19th, crossing the demarcation line, and prompted North Korea's government to start an investigation into the military unit responsible for crossing, with plans to administer a severe punishment. Now, looking further into the situation in North Korea, it signals that Kim Jong-un is tightening control over the population and the state during the pandemic. The fact that North Korea's economy is deteriorating adds a sense of urgency to ensure the virus doesn't reach the masses and further causes a deterioration in the situation. But what a lot of people have been saying is they've been skeptical of the number of coronavirus cases within Korea, saying this can't be the first case ever in North Korea. This is according to the commander of U.S. forces in South Korea, saying the virus likely made its way to North Korea anyway, and that North Korea's border, it's not as isolated as you think it is, that it's quite porous from the north side because it touches on China, and a lot of black market traders do cross the border to send in their goods, and that would have been the likely source of the coronavirus in North Korea. So far, we don't really know the real number of cases in this hermit country.
Especially when South Korea was at the very beginning, was one of the first few countries with the highest number of cases. Well
Now
above.
it's reporting maybe 40 to 60 a day.
Yeah, and South Korea was quite clever with
They're good.
with their curbing and the measures to curb the spread of coronavirus. They were one of the first countries to start the drive-through testing and mass testing. They were pretty good at that. But one could argue that it's a heavily fortified border, so the virus could not have gone through those wired fences over to the north. That could be one assessment. However, during a meeting over the weekend, Kim has ordered a maximum emergency system to contain the virus. A couple of people have been saying that North Korea claims that they actually were able to contain the virus because they put thousands of people into self-isolation, closed its borders 6 months ago. But to what extent that is true, only time shall tell.
And also the idea that the thing about North Korea's border is like it's heavily militarized on the border to South Korea and heavily fortified, but the North border is vast. And a lot of trading activity coming in from China for years, according to sources. So that might be one of the ways the coronavirus made its way to North Korea. But North Korea is one of the world's poorest countries and has a lack of equipment in terms of its medical infrastructure as well, which complicates its efforts to track and identify COVID-19 cases and makes it incredibly difficult should North Korea deal with a spike of infections. But regardless of the actual number of cases in North Korea, we'll never know what is going on due to the insane level of secrecy as far as state media is concerned. So reporting on this story in particular would be difficult for anyone involved.
Yeah, indeed. Well, what we shall do is take a bit of a breather. We shall return right after the news headlines and continue the discussions here on the Morning Majlis. And if you'd like to have your say, join the discussions. 4215 is the text line for you to have your say on the topics that we're discussing. Stay tuned to Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
Between local lines. Notes from the Emirate.
Yes, we continue the conversation about Eid al-Adha because it's all about giving back, as we mentioned earlier, and that is one of the cores of Islam, is giving back and really working on the humanitarian initiatives. And Sharjah is no stranger to that, of course, especially when we're talking about the Sharjah-based global humanitarian organization, the Big Heart Foundation, as it has made a call to corporate entities and individuals to donate to its Kiswat Eid drive that actually started running from July 24th, and it shall run until July 30th, which has been designed to ensure that children of families affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and low-income families in the UAE celebrate this holy occasion.
Yeah, and this is a very important initiative by the Big Heart Foundation, and 1,500 children are going to benefit from the celebration of Eid's spirit of compassion, to share kindness with them. Each donation of 200 dirhams will translate into a gift card for a child in need, which will provide them with a brand new set of clothes. Donors may purchase as many of these gift cards as they desire for the young beneficiaries. And it's been made quite clear in terms of how a number of retailers and also are getting involved, and you can also make texts to make that donation, Ahmed Dawood.
Yes, indeed. Now, the easiest way for you to donate is to head over to the Big Heart Foundation's website. That's where you could find all the information on how to be involved in the Kiswat al-Eid campaign and help children of needy families. The website, tbhf.ae. That is tbhf.ae. TBHF stands for the Big Heart Foundation.
Yep, and Mariam Al-Hamadi, director of the Big Heart Foundation, said Eid al-Adha is an occasion for spreading happiness through giving. One of the best ways to do is embracing those who are less fortunate and celebrating our charitable spirit. The intent behind the Big Heart Foundation's Kiswat Eid 2020 drive is to ensure that children whose guardians were affected by the pandemic are able to experience the festive joy of Eid by partaking in its traditions of wearing new clothes. For us as adults, we get used to how we view Eid al-Adha is, of course, we're very religiously, and we understand the importance of it. We take our we also cherish our shorter work weeks. That's the main thing, number one thing. Let's not lie. And for the children, it's the most important thing.
Definitely.
And they carry it, don't they?
That is actually, for myself personally, that is my priority in Eid al-Adha. The children in my family, how to make them happy, how to make them celebrate Eid and really know what Eid stands for. You have to educate them, not just give them gifts and that's it. Tell them more about Eid al-Adha. Tell them what Eid stands for. Tell them about the pillars of Islam and what a gracious, peaceful religion this is, and with all it holds, with everything that it holds. And so it's for me, the main aim, the first aim is children, educating them, celebrating Eid with them, and of course the less privileged people, the needy people, the people that don't have access to food like we do, or access to clothes like we do. Those people that should be put in mind as well in such an occasion.
Yeah, but authorities have given clear guidelines that avoid going to large gatherings. There's not going to be any Eid al-Adha prayers. That's been confirmed. But for a lots of people, it has clarified in one way that the awkwardness of either 3 hugs, 3 kisses on the cheek, or even khashmak, was it?
Yeah.
Don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So much easier. You can just be at home, a couple of waves on Zoom and online platforms. You'll be fine.
But you know what's even weirder?
Yeah.
with this new situation, with the social distancing, a lot of us we had adopted to the new social distancing method of obviously not as you said, not greeting each other. If us women, we kiss each other, or men also do it with the khashim, as they say. And a lot of people now, when they meet each other, for example, at work or other places, some people are comfortable again with greeting each other with hugs or kisses or all of that. So, and that awkward moment that we share right now is with people that are comfortable, other people are not comfortable. So it happened. I saw that personally with people who are not comfortable. They want to greet people who are comfortable and vice versa. That has also become a very uncomfortable situation that I see often nowadays.
So it's all about being
It's like we should all be united in one thing. Either we all greet each other the same way or we don't.
Yeah, no, it's all about that, of course, and we will be keeping you posted about what's coming up here on the program. We will be discussing a very, very important issue. Which certainly appear to be important at the moment. Cartoon in hot waters, what's going on? All this will be discussed right here on the Morning Majlis. To join us are live on the airwaves and also on Pulse 95 Radio's YouTube account, where you can stream us live. Stay tuned to Pulse 95.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Well, the United Arab Emirates has created history with the successful launch of the Emirates Mars mission's Hope probe from Japan, actually, on July 20th, thus becoming the first interplanetary mission by any Arab countries. It was definitely a major milestone that will be saved in history books forever. But two other nations are set to join the bandwagon. Both the United States and China are launching missions to the Red Planet this month and setting up what many are saying a new arena for their growing rivalry, really. But already, China's Tianwen-1 blasted off around midday Thursday from Hainan Island in the country's south, while NASA's Perseverance rover is scheduled to launch on July 30th. Both probes are expected to reach Mars in February 2021.
Yes, and the word Tianwen in the name of the rover in Chinese means to question the heavens. The United States is set to launch next week. And Rania, you've touched on an interesting point here, the fact that this space exploration has taken on this symbolic significance in the conflict between the United States and China. Both President Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping declared strong ambitions in the field. Late last year, Trump signed legislation creating the U.S. Space Force, the sixth branch of the U.S. Armed Forces. And Mars has that potential for human habitation, which makes it the focus here for the new space race. Previous missions had found water on the planet, which is a necessity for all of Earth's life forms. So allowing humankind to migrate there in great number, the potential of that is one that is great prospect for countries looking to expand not just on planet Earth, but above and beyond.
Well, look, if someone were to ask you, when was the first space probe to orbit another planet, or Mars in particular, it would be, for all of you to know, it was way back, 14th November 1971.
Soviet Union, was it?
They did the first flyby.
Yeah.
But the first space probe to orbit another planet when it entered the Mars orbit was
in the 50s?
1971, Marina 9
Nice.
by NASA.
Okay.
And the first contact to the surface were two Soviet probes, Mars Lander 2. That was also in 1971, but they did fail during the descent, sadly. But it is something to observe and celebrate in terms of how we are operating. A successful launch by the United Arab Emirates, followed by China. Something for you to carry on with your world of knowledge, courtesy of Morning Majlis, of course. For now, we will take a bit of a breather, and we will return with a little bit of a sports update in terms of what's happening at the UFC, what's happening in the Chinese Football League, what's happening in the Premier League, and so much to get through this morning. So stay tuned to Pulse 95.
The heart of Sharjah.
The heart. The heart of Sharjah.
Pulse 95.